Okay, so we just listened to a few minutes of a piece by a very talented composer that's our guest today, and was like a colleague in Buffalo for a while. At least like my first year was her last year, and Megan's first
Yeah.
year the same. Shunting knows her better. Diana Soh, Diana Soh, composer
Hi.
from Singapore, based in France. So, um, do you want to talk about yourself? Do you want to talk about the piece? I really like this piece and how you use the materials over here. It's kind of like very economical but very effective. How you it pushes forward and forward and forward.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, it's kind of like, um, is this how you approach instrumental music in general? For example,
You mean what, pushing forward or the
the,
economic?
yeah, everything like
Um,
some of the aspects over there.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a set approach for every piece. I don't know if you guys say like, oh, this is how I want to approach writing a piece, because I think every piece is kind of unique in a way. It's kind of like a personal journal, I guess, or some obsession that at least for me, it's like some obsession that I have at the moment, or when you go to too many concerts and you hear too many long, sustained kind of pieces, and then you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to write that. The next piece I write will be like, all these short impulses. At least that's where this piece was placed, I guess, if I remember it correctly. Autour de moi. Yeah. Do
Uh, it will
you know what I mean?
translate roughly as the author of myself, right?
Um, Actually, autour de moi is like around me, and it comes from a quote
Okay.
by Simone de Beauvoir, which says, autour de moi, on réprouvait le mensonge, mais on fouillait soigneusement la vérité. Et si aujourd'hui j'avais tant de difficultés à parler, c'est que je répugnais à utiliser la fausse monnaie en cours de mon entourage. So I'm gonna. Well, I've lived in France for a while, but I don't think my French is that good. But I'm gonna translate. So basically, she's saying something like, around me, people are kind of like valuing lies more than uh, and more than caring for the truth. And so today, if I have difficulty speaking, it's because like I don't want to use false money, like I want to use what how do you call it, counterfeit uh, in my entourage. So, oh, that's such a bad translation. I'm sorry, it's 9 p.m. over here. But you get the general idea. Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt in that moment when I read that. I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of how I feel at the moment, because I feel like when you're surrounded, the music industry here is very rich. So everywhere you turn is there's like a composer, or like the pie is very small in a way, because there's a lot of us working uh, in music, and sometimes I feel that way, so I get more and more silent. I don't know if Chongqing remembers, but when I was a student, I was like yapping all the time. So
I
as I get, yeah, I
think
get a little bit more, my words become a little bit more measured, because I'm not interested in can we say bullshit on your
sure.
podcast?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, frame me a little bit. Otherwise, I'll just start swearing. But like, yeah, I'm not interested in all that bullshit. So for me, sometimes it's very difficult to communicate, and I think the little things that we say and do really matters. So that's kind of where the backstory of the piece is, but it doesn't affect the construction of the piece. It's just something I was thinking about at the same time as writing that piece. Yeah, and also, it's like a mini concerto. So the
It's
piano is
sure.
central. Yeah,
6 or
piano is
7 minutes.
central. Sorry?
Okay, for 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, very
Yeah.
mini concerto. Um,
Beautiful.
so the piano is kind of central, and then everything comes out like resonance. So attack, sustain, decay, release. Yeah.
I really like that way of describing your approach to writing music, how each piece, because I see my compositions or like to see them in that same way. I don't like to rely
Mhm.
on a framework. Like I already have something figured out that I'm gonna apply for the next one and the next one and the next one. I like to see. Don't like. Well, yeah, I'm gonna say it this way. I don't like to see myself as having a language of my own. I just like seeing the pieces as each of them having a language of their own, and I think that
Yeah.
that's the way that you perceive of them. And the other thing is like how not necessarily the concept translates musically. You don't try to do something programmatic, for example. Programmatic music is not for you. It's what you're saying.
Um, yeah, it really isn't. But sometimes I guess what do you mean by, yeah, yeah. Not programmatic. It's not programmatic in a way. Like I don't try to force a story or a narrative on it. Because I think that musical meaning has its own value. I mean, what's musical meaning, right? If it's
Well,
just like memory, and then I mean, there's all these things that music enough. It's enough. What I'm trying to say.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about this, and about art in general. If you don't leave space for the listener to interpret, if you don't leave that type of ambiguity in their interpretation, then it kind of loses some weight,
Right.
or some artistry, or
Yes.
it becomes less pure. And I don't like using that word, but I guess that it communicates what I wanna say. But I wanted to ask something about your years in Buffalo. Was she really yappy and very talkative? You remember?
I find her pretty like I would say funny or she smiled quite a lot and had a lot of ideas telling friends. Yeah, I remember one day I was like working on like paper for whoever whatever course maybe a course by James Curry or something like that, and then and Diana suddenly told me about, hey, what about writing about like Tekamitsu, about Ma, about the space, something like that. Yeah, I. It seems to me that Diana is always like full of ideas. So somehow maybe that's the reason why the piece is usually very energetic, having a lot of like ideas, but at the same time the ideas are economical in some way, related in some way, like very I would say very propelling. Is it the word? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice being a guest, you know? You get only the compliments.
Well,
But yeah, I think I remember we had a conversation about Takamitsu and Ma. Was it talking about a door or
Yeah.
something? I don't know. But yeah, it's so long ago. I feel like my intelligence level has just like gone down after 15 years, you know? Because like it kind of like peaked in graduate school, and then now it's like, ooh.
Well, I don't know if it's intelligence, but yeah, certainly it's harder to have the energy, and you get tired. At least for me, I get more tired as I get older.
Yeah, I guess like responsibilities kind of like I still am full of ideas. I just don't have the follow through, you know?
well, you both are mothers, so I guess that has to do a lot with it. Like your attention cannot be fully on composition. You have some responsibilities to take care of another living being and all of that, and kind of like
The fathers too, right? Right,
Hmm.
Chongting?
If something has a
I
sibling.
Yeah,
have a kid. Yeah.
fathers too. They
Usually
have to know.
usually I only compose when when I'm not too tired or when I don't have to take care of Gabriel. Yeah. Very likely after the episode I have to practice the piano with Gabriel again. So I'm always surrounded by tasks. Yeah.
Mm.
So I
Right.
cherish the moments to the opportunity to compose a bit sometimes. Yeah, or I don't compose a lot, but I cherish the any opportunity to do that. Yeah.
actually we were kind of doing that just earlier today. I and we got ahead a bit, right? We kind of like support each other online, just like in grad school a bit. You compose a
Yeah.
bit, chanting,
I
didn't you?
I wrote a bit. Yeah, I wrote some trash and then I will delete it.
You're trash.
That's how it goes.
No, something's just very
Self-deprecating
self-critical.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
self-deprecate too much, I think.
Sorry
But
about that.
Yeah.
and then say sorry about that.
But
Even
in this
they're too
podcast we can
polite
do
and
that.
too self-deprecating sometimes, but that's part of your personality. That's who you are.
Yeah.
That's
It is
part of
very difficult to write music. It takes a lot, you know. Like I don't think
Hmm.
people know how much it takes
no.
to write
No, people
music.
don't. No,
It's
Yeah.
I teach composition class to like kids. Like they're probably between like 13 and 18, and so many of them are interested in composition. And then once they realize that it actually takes real work to write a piece, they're kind of like, never mind. I don't know what they thought in their head, but it seems to be a lot of people don't think it is very difficult until they actually try to do it.
I
Yeah, it's so strange. Yeah.
I make I make a living by teaching children the piano, and then I have a high schooler kid who wants to write some music. So he told me that, oh, it's just like some kind of like emotional experience, and then he only had to write it down. And then I told him, oh, that's not that easy. If you think about anything spontaneously, somehow you are just improvising. But
Yeah.
when we compose, we do want to look for some like possibilities, some other way to work with the materials. But
Mm.
yeah, actually, it's a very tough task.
It
Hmm.
is, it is. And like I've been getting younger colleagues, like maybe 20 years younger. They come to me and they're like, "Oh, I would like to be a professional composer." And it's like alarm bells in my head. And I just want to say, run, don't. Like, but you can't. You're just like, I don't say anything. It's like, oh, okay, great. How can I help? Yeah, it's tough. It's so tough. And I guess I don't know. It's such a tough profession. That's all I can
Hmm.
say. But you guys know that.
We
So
know it, but
preaching to the choir.
trying
And
to explain it to other people, even in the arts, even in other arts that
Hmm.
are adjacent to us in literature or even in performing arts, because you got okay, the process is longer. I think that the longest one, right? Because you have the conception of the idea, then you have to write it down, like you're from the abstract to something more tangible, and then kind of use a performer if you are kind of like doing it in the traditional sense with no electronic music or anything like that, and then trying to communicate to the performer and that the performer communicates with the audience what your original intention is. It's like a lot of translation, a lot of the
Hmm.
original intention gets lost in the process, and sometimes you just have to deal with it. There's nothing you can
Oh,
do.
it's so difficult. Yeah. Yeah,
And
I do visual art as well, and it's that one of my attractions to visual art is it is so easy compared to composition,
yeah,
and
try.
it's yeah, it's so and it's just like all the problems, or and it's a double-edged sword because like it's really hard communicating your ideas to like performers, but at the same time like and it can be a frustrating experience, but when it like works, it's the most like amazing for me. It's the most amazing, invigorating experience that you don't get that kind of thing in visual arts. But when you're stuck in frustration where you can't take your piece, you can't get a performance, or you can't get a good performance, or whatever. Yeah, it's so easy that you can take a brush and put something on paper that means something to the audience.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, try.
I guess we're kind of like
Yeah.
backseat drivers. It's kind of dependent on who embodies the work. Uh, I would say we have to like mitigate the risk and just get rid of any assumptions. Maybe I don't know. With the
Yeah.
performers, that's what I mean. Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah, I
relationship?
don't know how to go on with this because like
Yeah.
it's so much to unpack. I think
Yeah.
when it comes
I
to
think
working
that
with performers.
that side with yeah, kind of set enough. Like yeah,
Mm.
it can be really frustrating at times. Like it's not like just writing a novel, a short story, and showing it to somebody. It's a very much more complex
Yeah.
process, say, and more so in what we are trying to do, or like the shared aesthetic that I am assuming that we have here of new music, of contemporary music. Like there's a lot of resistance from the performers themselves in general, from the music community itself. I don't know about it in Europe, if it's as much as it is in the Americas, or or not, or if with that includes new notation systems because you're not falling into a tradition. Well, you're following in a tradition, but then again, you're pushing that tradition. You're pushing the performers out of that comfort zone, and a lot of them don't like it. And then there's exposing the audience into these new sound worlds, let's say sonicscapes and all of that. And that's another barrier, and it's kind of like it becomes a lot of complexity. You really have to have a genuine love out of this to keep doing it over the years. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of time, I would say. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it can become frustrating at times when you meet up with certain barriers and stuff like that. But I think that in the end we continue doing it because we think it gives us a reward that we cannot get anywhere else or through any
Mm-hmm.
other medium, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just my 2 cents on that topic.
I think
Yeah,
it's the three layers to the problem you articulated.
yeah.
And each of it's pretty heavy actually, because there's the composition process
Mm-hmm.
that's with like personal meaning. Why you keep writing? I mean, like if there's no commission, if there's no performance, would you keep writing music to put it in the drawer? Is it of any value if it's there's no physical sound? If just writing notes, does it then become like a graphic piece? And then the whole process of like bleeding your heart out on paper, spending a lot of time because it's a time-based art. So that's like the personal why, right? The
Mm-hmm.
compositional aspect. And then there's like the performer aspect. Are you working from the start within a collaborative process with the performer? Do you have people that you can trust, I guess? Or are they just like one shot, like makes marriage, your producer put you together, then you just kind of have to read their personality, read the room, and then negotiate all that thing. That's like the second problem. And then they might or might not like you or your music, or even care that I don't know. There's all sorts of performers, right? People who are
Mm-hmm.
interested in discoveries. I mean, there's also people, or people who are just there for self interest so that they can look good or sound good. So that's also something that we have to gauge, and then we have to then communicate physically with them, orally with them, and not just on paper. And then there's the third problem, which is the public. And so it's like a third filtration system. And then this part comes with, of course, cultural context. How do you, in a way, contextualize what you're doing so that they can go like, oh, okay, maybe it's not for me, but I kind of get it, or like, oh, wow, that's amazing, or like, oh, I totally hate this. But whatever it is it's like there's so much to unpack, and there's all these layers. And I guess I don't always love composing. I have to admit that. Um,
Well,
yeah, there are moments because there are moments where I feel like I don't want to write anymore, and I think for the last it was like the last 2 years before I went to Toronto, where I taught for a while. I was burnt out, and I couldn't figure out, am I burnt out because I'm a modern woman. I'm juggling work. Work is high stress because I'm overproducing. My producers bringing down my neck because the production, uh, uh, you know, the production amount is huge, and I have to sell tickets, and I have to do all these things, and I have to write music, and I have to make sure everything's well on stage. I can't tell if that was the problem. I can't tell if, like, I'm a mom, and it takes a village to raise
Mm-hmm.
children, but we're pretty much on our own if you think about it. And or I can't tell, or like, did I just like not, how do you say, in France we say blaiser? Am I just like given up on this profession because there's too much bullshit going around? I can't tell. And for about, I think, a year and a half, I was very miserable. But I was also producing a lot of music, so I don't know I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Now I'm
Yeah, I
okay.
mean,
Now I'm really
I think it
okay.
also is hard. Like, I don't think it necessarily. I think sometimes when you're really close to something, like, we're all close to composition. It's not always, a happy-go-lucky all the time. That doesn't mean we don't love it, but sometimes the relationship we have with composition is, difficult. I know I go in,
Complex.
yeah, it's complicated, complex, and I go in spurts that I'm very, burnt out, and sometimes I'm producing, and sometimes I'm not. And I don't know if when I'm not producing, I wouldn't say like, oh, I dislike it more or whatever, but it's just that I'm just not in the mental, frame. And sometimes it's hard. You do get infiltrated, especially with social media, like with what everyone else is doing and all these other components, all these and like sometimes I have to just like stop and like push it all aside and be like, okay, whatever, like, and just do what I want to do, and not necessarily
I think there's a central
worry. Yeah.
here. Is it worth it, right? Is it worth
Hmm.
it? But I wanted to listen to Sean Ting. He must have some thoughts on this subject.
Well, I think it's always worth it. I mean, if you really like it and then you really
That's
want to do it, that's very important, right? It's just, I mean, for example, there are a lot of kids. They learn their instruments, they practice their instruments. Not all of them become, like, let's say, professional musicians.
Mm.
Very few of them will be a soloist. Maybe a little bit more will be like orchestra, or will play for some regional orchestra. And but at the end, even if we don't play music professionally, music is still something precious, in my opinion. And a moment ago, maybe 10 minutes ago, we talked about like the music is kind of abstract. The backstory may not be that important, but at least because music has some values. If we truly believe this kind of like ideas, somehow then we can proudly say that actually when we make music or when we practice music or when we listen to music, the process should be kind of valuable, right? We find it rewarding in some way, right? um and I want to go back a bit because a moment ago we also talked about like composition process. I i find i find um i i would say composition can be pretty lonely in some way, right? Because when we tell people that our music is kind of abstract, and then we have a lot of abstract ideas to write out in form of music, and then the music, if the music is not performed, or if the music will be performed later anyway. So before the performance, actually only we know how our music may sound. Most of the time only, and most of the time it's like this, and it is very hard to tell, let's say, it's very hard to tell my wife. My wife is not a musician, so I cannot tell Tiffany, oh, do you know what? I just write a piece about my little movement in my stomach. I cannot tell her about this. And then no matter how eloquent I am, she won't be able to hear the music in my head. and and it's very different from like visual art or literature, right? If a moment ago, not a moment ago, last week I finished writing a fiction, and then when I was writing it, occasionally I just forced Tiffany to read my manuscript. I just forced her to read, and somehow she couldn't resist, so she had to read it. So somehow she would give me some feedback, but it won't happen for music. It won't happen for music because she won't be able to understand what I'm writing. So okay, so I will most of the time keep it myself and think about it and struggle myself. Yeah, and it may be the same too, even if you have some friends who are very honest and willing to look at your sketches, look at your drafts. mm, but it is still very hard to like to discuss or to share until we truly finish the piece and hear the piece in a concert. And so I find actually music composition can be pretty lonely. Yeah, it's like 3 months of solitude, 5 months of solitude, and it's like an invisible jail in some way. Yeah. Sorry, I talk too much. Yeah. I'm the one who is yapping all the time now.
No, you're actually very funny. Yeah, and I'm glad to see after all these years you're still very funny. Um, yeah, it is. It can get a bit lonely, I guess. Yeah, especially
Hmm.
when after like my experience, like my professional experience of it is sometimes I just had a performance and everybody's out, celebrating, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go, and it's not because I'm antisocial, it's because I have to like go back to the hotel and like right right away. And yeah, and I'm like, oh god, I can't even enjoy that moment. So for me, it's like not being present. That's kind of like the hardest part, the loneliest part, because we have to think ahead, right? Because
Hmm.
we're like 6 months ahead of that moment. Whereas performers, they're so lucky to get to be like really in the moment. And then when they're embodying the music, they're like vibrating in the moment, and we're just like sitting there. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
kind of. I guess that's a bit lonely. I'm married to a composer, so he can look at my score.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a bit, like that's an advantage and a disadvantage, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of a leitmotiv every time I either present my music or have to speak about composition, the lonely aspect of it. Um, because, yeah, well, everything that's creative, you have to kind of sit down and be there. But what we're talking about is like inside the process itself. How do you get feedback, right? How can you show what you are going through? How can you show your idea? It's very, very, it's more abstract. I think that composition starts from a very, very abstract place. And it stays in the abstract until you can listen to it, as I understood it from Sean Ting's process, or like until at least you listen to it. Even if, like, I remember Felder saying, and it stayed with me, like, when you have the score, it, even if it's a very precise score, it is only a fiction. Only when you listen to it in the tangible world, when you listen to performers, is that you get a sense of what that inner ear, inner brain, inner creative mind is trying to express. And then it's when you kind of have a dialogue. You can have a dialogue. So yeah, that's over there, let's say. Um but yeah, anything else on that you wanna say? I wanted to talk about following up on the work that we listen to, the
Yeah.
more, like you mentioned in your on your website, like you don't compose with deliberate noises, right? And
Okay.
that's something that we music composers, contemporary music composers, always get accused of. But it's something, why do people, if performers even, accuse of that? They don't see the logic, they don't see uh, they are not familiarized with either the materials, the timbres, that, or the musical language that we're trying to express. But I found that really compelling that you wrote that in your on your website, uh, dianasoh.com. For those that don't know, there it is. If you wanna go over there, there's a lot of info on her. But yeah, it also has to do with form, right? It has to do with the materials.
Hmm.
Why did you write that? And
Why
you
did
want
I?
it explicit, that you don't write random noises on deliberately, like on deliberately.
Wow, I wrote that so long ago. I'm like pulling out my website. I want to see what I wrote. No, it's very strange, but like I don't hang on, my internet doesn't seem to be working, or my site doesn't
I
seem
can
to be
share
working.
it. Don't worry. Here,
But
it's
hmm.
it
Yeah.
it's over here. I
Yeah, I guess there's an assumption. I'm just trying to make sure that everyone's kind of clear about the assumption that people like to make about composers. They like to think that, oh yeah, we like to we write weird noises because the assumption is that a C major chord is not weird. But I think it's about context. And I must admit that like when I was a graduate student and even after I graduated, like uh even even now I guess, like I don't know, but like in my early stages I was really interested in extended techniques because from where I come from, Singapore, we don't really have a lot of new music. So when I hear a weird sound, I'm like, wow, what's that? Like, that's amazing, you know? Like, can a violin really do that? Like, what did you do with the piano? Did you what with rubbers, with screws, and everything was just like a child discovering the world. And then I just wanted to use all those sounds. But I guess over the years, I realized that the direction in a piece of music seems to be more important than the material itself because it's like our ears just want to track like it's like a memory thing, right? That's how we understand music. That's how we understand meaning in music, I guess. Because there's some sort of memory game that our brain plays. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is now I'm a little bit less obsessed with extended techniques. And if there are extended techniques in my music, or if there are sounds that are um, unusual for the listener, it's not because I want to use them like just to impress someone. Like, oh yeah, I know how to use Bartok pits in this context. That's what I'm trying to say. And
Mhm.
I guess the political part is because I keep getting questions about the pieces that I write. They seem very feminist. They seem very political. But I'm not like Luigi Nono political. I think if you want to say, am I a political composer? Then maybe yes, because everyone is. In a way, we have views, and I have very clear views about a lot of things. But they don't necessarily translate into music. But when you write like
Mhm.
a piece with voice or like with text, then I guess the choice of text or the choice of issues that I choose to raise, they are of direct concern to me as a human being, not because I'm trying to like hold a sign and go, you know, do a protest in the middle of Paris or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, that in and of itself has value, but I don't really know how to fully encapsulate that in a musical setting. Um, I'm not talking about theatrical works or operatic works, but I mean like in just like a concert setting. So that I guess that's why I wrote what I wrote. In a way,
Yeah.
just want to like erase the assumption, you know, like I'm interested in a lot of things as are
Mhm.
you and you and you and all the other composers, and people just
Yeah.
assume like we want to like piss them off the music that we write. But I'm also very interested in C major chords and how it's orchestrated, because you can do it like with the major chord. You can, I mean, you can just by combining, you know, doublings, right? You can have amazing sounds. And that's like the thumbprint of every composer, I guess.
I was
Yeah.
curious, like so I was looking through your body of work. You, I mean, you have a lot of work for voice, but then
Yeah,
in
I
your
do.
works for instruments, like
Hmm?
I feel your work for instruments, I feel like a lot of the approach, especially to the extended technique in there, is very I don't vocal or like humanistic in a way. Like I think it's always the sounds are always like present, like features like the breath or like you can kind of hear like the movement of the human body in the sounds. They're um yeah, they seem to be very like kind of expressive, like in a very like a humanistic way, rather than just being these collections of like weird sounds or whatever. They seem to be directed, and I was wondering, is there a relationship between like the way you write for voice and the way you write for instruments?
Yeah, yeah. I think you're spot on, Megan. I, well, hindsight's a really cruel joke. Because now that I'm going through this it's not midlife crisis, but it is a midlife experience definitely. And I'm looking back and I'm like, oh God, I just wasted 20 years of my life because I really, I mean, in my youth, I just wanted to be a singer. I just wanted to be like a conductor. I want to do choral music, and somehow I ended up because of another colleague that actually went to Buffalo. His name is Chong Shi, and somehow I ended up in Buffalo, and studying for a PhD in composition, and then I never looked back, right? Because I came to Paris, and then everything just spiraled. But like the main source of what sparked my musical interest was vocal music. I was always singing, and then now I'm not singing anymore. Well, I am singing in June, but anyways, that's another story. But yeah, so everything's kind of sung in a way. Like I don't know how you guys compose, but I compose at the piano. I'm very noisy. I sing, uh, and even the instrumental music, it's vocal based. Yeah, you're completely right.
Mhm.
And in a way, I think I'm not very strong in writing instrumental music. Uh, that's how I feel, anyways.
Oh.
Yeah, because yeah, yeah.
No, I personally love that quality of your music. I thought it made it very engaging.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But I always notice the voice first. Like I don't know if it's the same for if it's like a any there's any scientific proof to this observation. But I feel like when there is a human, and
Hmm.
then there's always like human first, then instrument, and then like
Oh, for
electronics.
sure.
That's kind of how
Yeah.
I. Is there any scientific basis to this? Like, are there any
There,
studies?
I think there must be there must be some kind of study.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
yeah, because I mean we recognize like I mean just like another animal like if you're
Right.
a
Yeah.
chimpanzee like we might generalize oh those are chimps or chimpanzees but not be
Right.
able to necessarily tell the difference but they can all tell the difference whereas other animals might overgeneralize us. Um, yeah, because we're so tuned in to like identifying human
Mm.
voices and different people. Um, but yeah, I'm an instrumentalist, and my background is as an orchestral player mostly. And
You
if
play
there
the
was
horn,
a
right?
yeah, but if there
Yeah.
was a vocalist on stage in a concert, that would immediately draw my attention
But
over
horn's
over
like
an
singing.
instrumentalist. Yeah, I
Horn's
mean,
like
because it's
singing,
like
right?
yeah, kind of, yeah. I think it is very. I think it is a lot like singing. But I think like when you have an instrument, like I notice that players kind of hide a little bit behind their instruments and have a hard time being like physically present on stage. But when you're a vocalist, like your physical being is your instrument, so they're like a much more like they're much more um, present, and their stage presence is I think extremely different.
Yeah. I mean, you write for a singer, you don't just write for the instrument, you write for the whole personality as well. And I think it's a lot in the classical training as well. You, yeah, it's so, oh God, I just want to hug the singers, yeah, composers and singers, right? Um, it's really tough job, I guess, because, it's them. Their voice is their whole personality, and the training and everything is like you're objectified in so many ways. And if you don't get the audition, then you think you're worthless, and yada yada yada. I guess we feel the same, right, when we get rejection letters as well. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to take distance. But that, yeah, with singers, it's like they are their whole being, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
physically, mentally, everything. It's so strange, and then they have to play this role. Oh God, like I could go on forever. I actually taught a whole class on it. But anyways, it's
Very
not
cool.
teaching time. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah.
Do you, I know you were a visiting professor this past semester, but do you
Hmm.
typically do a lot of teaching or?
I actually don't. I think the first time I actually taught, well, the last time I actually taught was in Buffalo, I guess. And then I went, no, I went home. I taught for like 9 months in Singapore.
Okay.
And then most recently, I gave a is it called a master class? I don't know. I taught at Royal
Mm-hmm.
Môn.
Mhm.
It's academy. It's a very good academy for young composers. You get to go for 3 weeks, and you write a piece there, and you get to know um, performers, I guess, and you work with the performers. But I guess the teachers or the teaching crew, it's a hit and miss, right, Chongting?
Yeah, kind of.
Sorry, inside joke. We shouldn't say it's online, but but yeah, it really depends year to year. They change the teachers, so it really depends on who's going that year. So that
Mhm.
I caught the teaching bug there, which was great because this
Yeah.
whole university at Toronto thing was like a, I don't know where it came from, but it was really great experience for me, and I think it was a good experience for my students as well, according to them. I don't know. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't do a lot of teaching. I'm usually just full time working as a composer. It's yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome.
but teaching is great actually. You wanna know why? Because you're telling them what to do and you don't actually have to do it.
I know. But I feel like a lot of times though, like I come up with like the best ideas I come up with are ideas I come up with for my students.
For our students, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, no, I think I'm not a very experienced teacher, but like I for the entire semester, I was like obsessing with all my students' pieces. Everything would be like, oh yeah, that would be really good for her. No, all that thing, like they should do this, and like it wouldn't stop. And then I have no space for myself. So I don't know how those people do it long term for like, tenured professors. I don't know, but for me, I think I don't have enough experience to disengage. Yeah.
Well, and also you get kind of like thinking about their music or thinking about what to say or receiving feedback. You get ideas you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Like while you are articulating your music sometimes or trying to explain your music to people in a certain level, you also kind of like realize some things that you wouldn't have otherwise. So the teaching experience is kind of like uh, yeah, it goes back and forth. I would say definitely, it's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
enriching experience. Um,
But I want
but
to say I don't talk about my music because there's so much good music out there, you know? Let's just go to a library and then we take out stuff and we look at the scores together. Because I realize like a lot of people don't know standard repertoire anymore. Sorry if my students are listening to this, I don't know. But yes, I say the same thing in the studios.
what would
Oh,
you consider? What are you referring to as standard repertoire? Like really classical,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
romantic,
yeah.
classic, yeah,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like from the 19th century, 18th century. Okay,
Everything. Some of them don't even know Nessun Dorma.
okay, okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a problem in some ways, but I also think it's a problem. Do you know what I mean?
I
mhm.
Yeah.
I I will agree with that. It,
Yeah.
it is kind of a problem because if you are kind of like following a tradition, you kind of need to know what has come before, especially if you are trying to go on and do new things and think that you are doing something new, and somebody has done it 100 years before you. It's kind of like, come on, no, no. But what I wanted to say was because I was, yeah, Chunting and I were kind of composing together more or less earlier. It's kind of
Like
like
collaborating?
not collaborating. It's like what would you describe it, Chunting? We met so
We
to make sure we did the work.
yeah we
Oh, account
yeah
you held each other
Yeah,
accountable.
holding each other accountable because sometimes we don't do that, and kind of like Shunting uses the voice. We both use the voice. Today we used it, but it was in a very different way. Like I wanted to ask this about how you compose because I tend to use it more in a rhythmic manner, like stuff like that. But I'm still using the voice as a foundation. And sometimes Shanting will be like he will shift between rhythm or more melodic stuff. So when you refer to the voice as foundation of your music, are you referring to it in a more melodic, traditional sense, or more kind of like what you can produce with it in general?
I think yeah, it's all encapsulating because I think there's a part of me, the singer part of me has not died yet. So if you're composing like with the voice at the piano, so everything's passing through the body physically. And I used to be very ashamed of it because,
Yeah.
when you go to school, like you would think like, wow, all these people they just like hear music and then they just write it down, right? All those liars. Well, at least when I was in school, right, the impression that my seniors, even in Buffalo, they gave me was like, wow, they have all these great ideas, and then the score is so complex, and then I'm just this noob that has to rely on the piano or my voice. Um, I still like if I have to hear like I hear a pitch, I would hum it, so that I'd be like, oh yeah, I kind of okay, yeah, you're kind of in tune. But it's like a self reference, so I guess the foundation is,
Mhm.
I mean that's what I mean. I guess.
Yeah. But I feel
Yeah.
like so much music, like it doesn't have that like physical awareness. And then so in actuality, like on stage, the music is unintentionally like awkward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like in the
and
head. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like your music, I mean, I think because of it all comes from the physical body, you don't get that type it's experience.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah. I thank you.
No, I mean it, yeah.
I wanted to ask something about it because you are doing it all the time, even more so than I. It's kind of like for every step of the way, I've noticed that you do this. What do you think about it, and how would you relate it to Diana?
You mean voice?
Yes. Have you noticed? Are you self-aware of this,
Aware of what? Like
of how you use your voice?
He's noisy too. I realize.
I I I would try to imitate whatever sound I would like to write, and then yeah, I yeah. Sometimes I'm really afraid because my one day Tiffany told me that, you know what, when you are taking subway, somebody stare at you because you make some weird gesture all the time, and you because I just move and think about that. Yes, yeah. And you know what? Somebody stared at you a moment ago, huh? Something like that. Yeah. And and sometimes I don't know. Okay, maybe suddenly some kind of like so-called inspiration spark my enthusiasm about whatever sound. I just couldn't help it. I want to hum or try to make some like noise that is similar to what I hear. Yeah. So yeah, I think voice is a voice or or instruments where I try to play something or try to tap whatever rhythm make me like connected with the thing I'm about to write. Yeah, I will
Mhm.
find it a little bit more um secure maybe. I feel, yeah, 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 I do that. Okay, okay, I'm doing this, and then I'm going to write this. Yeah, I prefer that if I mean, if I am forced not to do all these kind of silly noise or like humming, I think I can compose. Yeah.
Do you guys all prefer like the quiet, the stereotypical quiet chambers to come? Because that's not, I do not. I mean, I don't necessarily like screaming or, you know, people engaging with me necessarily, but I do like there to be things happening around me
Oh
when I'm
wow,
composing.
that's
Um,
impressive.
yeah, I don't know. Not
No,
That's
that's
like,
impressive. With like amazing focus if you have things going around you.
I will have to agree. And what I said about shunting is because with you, it's been the composer that I've spent most time with. Like we are composing at the same time, and that's kind of awkward to say because I don't. It's like we've been doing this since grad school, if you remember. Or do you remember something? Are you there?
Kind of. I
Kind
remember I went to your home and then we did something there. Yeah, we w- we work
that's
on
not
some stuff.
remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or sometimes we stayed in the
But
library.
the in the library, no, I kind of evaded the library. The thing is that I've noticed this pattern in you since grad school. It's been something that has gone on throughout the years and years, and it makes me think. It makes me think because I wasn't that aware of that in myself, and I've been more aware of it during the last few years. But the thing is that it's something very human. Like we need to feel the vibrations going through our body, and it also
Mhm.
makes me think. It always makes me, everything makes me think of Stockhausen writings in a way or another, like how music, since it goes through your body, through frequencies,
Mhm.
through vibrations, it literally changes you. You are not the same before the vibrations as you are after the vibrations. So it's a physical phenomenon
Right.
that we cannot really
Mhm.
get away from it. Eh, in any sense, and we must remember that it goes through us, even if you want to explain it spiritually, metaphysically, whatever. But in the end, it's a physical phenomenon. It's kind of like our cells change because of these vibrations, and when we sing them, when we express them through the voice, it's kind of like more deliberate, more apparent. And yeah, that's what I will have to say about that.